everybody. My name's Jose Olmeda.
My name is Jaime R Olmeda.
And this is J.A.R. Films' exclusive interview with the one and only KnivesMonroe.
Yeah, thanks for making it, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man.
Thank you very much, man. It's a pleasure is ours, for sure.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and ask some questions about, we're going to be covering wrestling, or we're going to be covering, asking I'm sorry.
No, this is for Knives.
Oh, awesome.
Exclusively,
Sorry,
just for Knives.
All right.
Knives.
To be fair, KnivesMonroe actually comes from a wrestling name. In 2006, a lot of my friends at the time were really into wrestling, and we had been backyard wrestlers for years before that. Some of our stuff is still on YouTube, and we responded to like this ad that was going to be at UTPA to actually be trained by wrestlers. And now, cut to today, those guys are the Wrestling Revolution, in part with NWA,
Oh, that's cool.
and they go to San El Rey, and they have shows every Friday now. They've had Sabu there, Mick Foley's been there, you know, Paul London has been there.
Right.
So in those guys' infancy in 2006, started getting training there, learning how to bump, learning how to roll, learning the psychology of wrestling. And I actually attribute a lot of storytelling to wrestling, you know. So to me, you can't divorce KnivesMonroe from wrestling or film. Like, it's all intertwined, you know.
Oh, okay.
They told me that I needed a wrestling name, and I was like, okay, let me think about that. And a week later, I came up with Knives, and they were like, well, you need a last name. And Marilyn Manson has always been a hero of mine. As a matter of fact, I tell people that Marilyn Manson is my dad. And
Okay.
some people take it seriously, but you know, I read his autobiography when I was like 12 years old, and the way he came up with his name was between Charles Manson and Marilyn Monroe.
White and black.
So I kind of did the same thing. I was like, I'm a walking contradiction, so I was like, how about KnivesMonroe? And it just stuck. Legally changed my name, and here I am. That's the bottom line. I got nothing else to say. The weather doesn't affect my ass. Girl Matlaw, this one's for you.
I like that, man. Then
It's
you
a
got
true
those.
story.
You got a like catchphrase to your name too. Walking contradiction. That'd be
Yeah,
kind of cool.
I mean, just
yeah?
like my dad, Marilyn Manson, you know.
Yeah.
So whether if it's wrestling or film, to me, it's all the same thing, because where I get my storytelling kind of beats from is wrestling, to be honest, you know. When wrestling was at its best, it's storytelling, you know. My son the other day asked me, like, who was the best bad guy that you ever saw? And I was like, Triple H. Triple H was the greatest bad guy ever. I remember when he tried to get out of a fight with Stone Cold Steve Austin because he got bit by a rattlesnake in his face. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, yeah, he blamed him? Right?
He was like, he got bit by a rattlesnake and his face was like all swollen. He's like, I can't wrestle, my career's over. And Steve Austin was like,
Yeah, that's like the first time he was like, what? You know,
what? Yeah.
emotional
And then of
about
course
it.
he took it off and he just like stabbed him in
Yeah.
the back, and it's like, he got me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you son of a bitch. I was
Yeah.
like, wow. And that is like just as good as any film to
But
me.
wasn't he like sneaking his way to like attack Stone Cold anyway?
Yeah.
And that's why I was kind of like, I really didn't feel sorry for him, because I felt like it was like a crook breaking into a place and hurting himself.
Of course.
Suing the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how it
I
is.
think you're right. You're
But I
right
did
about
feel
that.
bad. I did feel bad about
But I
it.
felt bad too because Austin felt bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you know, and just for him to stab Austin in the back.
To fool Austin, you got to be a hell of a you know, psychological kind of guy.
It's great drama, you know. It's great conflict. It's great chemistry. It's great action. There's stunts at the end of the day, you know what I mean? And so wrestling and filmmaking, to me, it's storytelling.
And they're good actors too.
They are.
I mean, but
they do everything in one take.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And
they don't say cut. Okay, hit me with the chair. Okay, action. They don't do that.
Well, that's of course the promo thing. Sometimes when it's live, you're kind of screwed. But if they had time to do promos where like they can go back and forth. Right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Sure.
But I'm saying in the ring, absolutely.
Oh
right.
yeah.
Then,
this is why I think WWE. You know, I love all kinds of wrestling, whether if it's from Japan, Mexico, whatever it is, Europe.
Yeah.
But WWE, you know, it's what we grew up with, right? It was like the mainstream. It's like American rock and roll for us. Yeah, and I love WWE because, you know, especially Monday Night Raw. It's you know, they say like if you're one of the best, you go to New York. New York will define you, right? New York will either chew you up or spit you out. You make yourself in New York, and you make yourself in WWE as well. You show yourself who you really are, that you can hang with the big dogs.
Don't they say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere?
Exactly.
Is that New York?
That is New York. That's New York. Exactly.
I wasn't sure.
And with WWE, it's the same thing. And just like New York, how they have Saturday Night Live, where the best of the best of the best go.
Yeah.
That's WWE Raw as well, you know. And they do everything in one take. They have the audience there. It's all live. You know what I mean? I just, it's beautiful. It's beautiful drama.
And those are two of my favorite things. In of all entertainment is WWE and SNL.
Yeah,
those are
me
two.
too.
I mean, I have a lot of different favorites, but those two are definitely.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because right now SNL is in a new period. It's in a new era. There's a lot of new faces.
God, I'd love to talk about that.
There's a lot of new faces, you know, and they're trying new things. There's a lot of hits and misses, but
yeah.
I love that, you know, because I remember when the Will Ferrell era came out and people were like, I don't know, but I was just like, give it time, and it was like one of the best.
Right.
I remember when that the Phil Hartman era came out. Even though I was like 6 and 7, I was like,
he's the best.
Just give it time. You know what I mean? And it was great. Adam Sandler era.
That's my favorite.
The Bill Hader, Andy Samberg era,
the
Kristen Wiig era. A lot of people consider that like a golden age now, you know?
Yeah,
so just give it time. And it's the same thing with wrestling. There's the Attitude Era, there's the 80s, there's the early 2000s, the Ruthless Aggression era.
Right.
I knew that was a special time then. And now you look at WWE as a lot of new faces.
No, definitely.
You know, and
a lot of people consider it the PG era and stuff, but I mean,
sure.
And a lot of people are upset about that, and they don't. They kind of get, I guess, turned off by it. But I mean, I think the action is probably it's probably better now than it ever has been.
It's
the
been,
action, the
it's
ring,
been the best it's been
wrestling.
in at least 10 years
It's
for sure.
been,
I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can talk about that. We can go into that in a lot more detail.
Definitely.
But I'm glad that you touched on your names, Knives, because I was very curious about that, and I'm sure a lot of your followers and fans and just anybody watching right now, when they heard us, you know, say your name, I'm sure they're
like
already curious right away. So KnivesMonroe,
and I like it.
And I don't know why, man. Don't. I don't know why I thought about it, but when you said, I knew. I thought, Knives. You want to know what I thought? You got your name from? I thought it was from. Wasn't the guy from Machete, Danny Trejo? Was his name Knives in Desperado?
I don't think so.
You know how he would throw the knives and all that shit?
Sure.
I think it was it Machete? Was it the same guy?
I thought it was
Knives.
Knives. I thought it was.
But yeah, maybe it was.
I gotta watch it again. But I just thought that maybe you were a big fan of him. That's all. You know, because I was. I loved him in that movie even before he made Machete. I thought that character was real badass, and they killed him off.
I'll be honest with you. Like when I was a wrestler, like I felt like I was obligated to name my moves after like knives-oriented things.
Okay.
You know, like
I
had a.
That's cool.
I love the camel clutch. To me, it's the ultimate submission.
Okay.
It's the ultimate submission. Like it's in a real fight, like you could kill somebody, you know, and I love it.
Definitely.
And so I used to do it, and I called it the sling blade. You know what I mean?
Like that.
It's kind of like knives oriented. I used to do this wheel kick, and I called it the Blade Runner.
Oh,
you know,
pretty cool.
I used to do the rock bottom because at the time the rock was like retired and gone.
Right.
It was irrelevant, so I was like, I'll steal the rock bottom. No one's using it,
Yeah.
and I called it the razor blade. You know, it was a bunch of knife stuff. But even then, it was just because I felt like it was a way to connect.
Did you ever do the Razor's Edge?
I never did the razor's edge, but I contemplated it.
You probably could.
I probably could. Yeah.
I think if you were to punch someone in the kidneys, you could have called it shank.
Shank, and so on and so forth. You know,
I like backbreaker.
It kind of sells itself.
Yeah.
It sells itself. You know.
That's great. That's great.
You know, the other day, my girlfriend asked me, who's she? She's not like me whatsoever. I love her to death, but she's very quiet. You know, when I'm excited, I'm like the woo. I'm that kind of guy.
Yeah.
When she's excited, she's just like, all right, that's great. You know, she's just very, internal, right? And she asked me. I was watching wrestling the other day, and she was like, if I was a wrestler, what kind of wrestler would I be? And I was like, you'd be a librarian. And she's like, how would that work? And I'm like, it's real easy, you know, like you would be the valet for another guy who's an idiot. He's a dunce. He's just like, duh, and he walks around and he's stupid, right? And you'd sit in his corner and you would just like read a book and you'd be like, just okay, man, that's pretty good. Not even paying attention to the match, you're reading. And then as the weeks go by, he's getting smarter. And you're realizing she's rubbing off on him, right? And he's becoming more intelligent. All of a sudden, he's a genius. And maybe like at a SummerSlam or something, he could graduate. Right, and with honors, right, and it's like, oh, this is really great. And then you turn your back on him, and you hit him in the back with a book. I was like, this makes perfect sense. You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
And then after a while, you can join somebody else. And then I was like, I'm giving you 6 months of television right here. I was like 32 weeks.
Enough.
You know what I mean?
It
It writes itself. It writes itself. You know what I mean?
You write a book about it.
My brain's always thinking about those kind of things.
Man, Knives, we have a lot more stuff to talk about because and I know you already touched on this. That you would get. I'm trying to remember if it was on camera or off camera, but you said that a lot of your, filmmaking ideas come from wrestling sometimes because you're a big fan of wrestling.
Sure.
And we are too. And I got to say that I come up with a lot of my ideas sometimes through wrestling, and then we have a lot to talk about, man. Because in future videos, because I was wondering, like, you have really good ideas. Even that idea was, really good. I mean, you took something that was very to a lot of other people, they would think like, what the hell can we do with a librarian? Like seriously, like what the hell is a librarian going to be able to do?
Enough noise in the ring, she'd be like, shh, or something.
That's probably you're being too loud, or tell the crowd, like you're being too loud or whatever. I like that. Yeah. But you see, you came up with that, and I'm just curious. I mean, this is more questions for you, but did you ever pitch any ideas to the wrestling organization that when they started off? Now they're of course associated with TNA, but when you were
NWA.
NWA. I'm sorry, NWA.
Same shit. Just kidding.
Well, you're with NWA, and like when you were doing the roles and practicing and learning all wrestling. Did you ever pitch anything? Because we have ideas for wrestling stuff too, but we never, we weren't that close.
To me, that's a two-part answer. The first part is, when I first did it, my friends were the wrestlers. Like, they were really talented. They were great grapplers, but they didn't really have like the psychology of telling the story, and they couldn't really connect with an audience. Like, they weren't good promos,
Yeah.
And that's something that I did have, but I wasn't a great athlete, But I was kind of like Dusty Rhodes, where I might have been fat and stuff, but I could give me the mic and I'll do fine, Or
awesome at that,
or the little things that you do in a match to connect with the audience, I could do.
Why don't you quit? No!
You say Juno, you give up?
So, actually, what I wanted to contribute at the time in 2006, it was like between 06 and 09 at the time, was as a filmmaker, I wanted to film it. I wanted to give them, video production of how to film a wrestling match. And that's what I wanted to do, was put their matches on YouTube and stuff at the time.
Definitely.
Which now I think they finally have that company, but they didn't have that at the time. And that's really all I wanted to offer. As far as stories with wrestling, one idea I had was of a holy war, and it would be pretty much about God. And there would be non-believers and those wrestlers, and then believers, the atheists, if you will, and that. And it would end with one of the wrestlers getting crucified, like nails to a cross. And I thought that would be really intense.
So taking it a little more extreme than what Undertaker did to Stone Cold.
A little bit more extreme. That was something I would still want to see, and I think people would. I think that's money. I think there's money in there.
I think you could help those guys out with, and I think we could too, as far as storylines with. Just to make their product more interesting and stuff like that, because they got great wrestling. We used to go to the shows when they were playing over at was it Rod's, right?
Rod's Burger.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then of course they were at Cena and Ray. We went to.
I mean, have a burger and watch a match. That was really cool. But I was always worried about the ground. I know they're professionals, but shit, man, if you have the momentum and being thrown out of the ring and you're relying on how you're gonna land, if you can do it on time, and especially the speed and all that stuff, it's scary, man.
Yeah, it can be very dangerous for sure, and there can be a lot of like injuries and accidents and stuff like that. I mean, for sure.
But I love watching it.
But that's the only thing I felt like they were lacking, because I would see some of their promos. They had some good characters, and they had some guys that I guess needed more practice and stuff. But I think they were lacking a lot on storylines. And man, I've talked to. Remember that guy, Rennie, that has his shop on University? Like he's referees.
Oh, Magic Mike.
Magic, I guess it's Magic Mike.
Well, he goes by Straight Edge Mike now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, him. Like I talked to him before, and I was like, man, I'd love to talk to if you can get me to talk to the promoters and stuff like that. I'd like to at least throw a few ideas, and just try to see if it works or not. If there's any way that'd be possible. And he was like, we'll go to a show. And I have yet to do that, but I definitely want to. And man, I hope that I could. I think it'd be awesome if you could too. I mean. I'd like to see something,
Yeah.
Like something more.
Unfortunately, not to not to kill the mood, but I'm not like in the best. I don't think they like me. You know what I mean? The people in charge of the Wrestling Revolution. It might be grudges from the past. I don't know. It might just be miscommunication, and there's some sort of uncertainty there. So I don't know if that could ever happen, but I just love all aspects of entertainment in general, and I think. There is good money in business to be made with the Wrestling Revolution here in the Valley. But at the same time, they got a lot of great minds there, and I'm sure they're working on it for sure.
Right. Have you been to one?
The truth is, due to these like kind of personal conflicts that I do have with them, that may or may have not involved a woman. You know what I'm saying? Because of that, my son really loves wrestling. And let's face it, these guys are more than just wrestlers. They're superheroes.
Right. Definitely. Yeah.
And I don't want my son to look at those individuals as superheroes. Now, this is very personal, but that's why. I mean, I've gone there maybe 2 or 3 times, and it's always a lot. It's very tense, you know, which is
Okay.
bizarre to me because I don't live in the past.
Yeah.
You know, I don't live 6 years ago. You know, the past doesn't equal the future, which is a big theme for my life.
Right.
Good.
And you know, but I don't want my son worshiping these guys either. You know, even though I know he'd have a blast
Yeah.
because they put on a good show.
I mean, you can
They
always
do,
make them
they do.
super villains.
Yeah, but I don't want to. You know, he knows that it's all work. You know, and he knows it's all part of the show, baby.
Yeah.
And I don't want to disillusion that for him. You
Yeah.
know, and condemn other people because I don't gain any pleasure out of that. You know.
Oh, I got you. I got you. Well,
But I
I
hear
mean, you
you.
know, you never know. I guess you know, just
Yeah.
like in the wrestling business, you never know.
If
Anything can
if they
happen.
ever called me or knocked on my door, I would definitely respond and entertain an idea, you know. But I don't think they're interested. And like I said, I think they got a
They
lot
got
of
some
creative
people.
people over there.
Yeah.
They're fine. They don't need a
Well, I
Knives
mean-
Monroe.
Yeah, they're fine with that too, right? I mean, they're whether they go where they're gonna go. I mean, it's still entertaining.
Absolutely.
Still, people still going. They're still there. They're picked up by NWA.
Mhm.
I'll tell you who
So-
does need more Knives Monroe, and those are the fans and people who, man, who pack the border, who have packed the border
man,
theater to
congrats
go
on
see
that.
your
That's
film. Because the last one you did, correct me if I'm wrong, was your third, and it was, to me, there was a lot of people that showed up. I want to ask you something real quick, if you can. Of course, we're probably not gonna have this in the video, but I wanted to start it like this, where you're gonna introduce yourself and just say what you do, and then after that, I got more questions.
Sure. Well, my name is Knives Monroe, and I'm a screenwriter, producer, editor, cinematographer at times, director, but above all, I am a man. A hopelessly inquisitive man,
I can agree on
just like you guys.
We got a lot of similarities for sure.